Jayanta Basu from Plurals in Belem, Brazil. As I speak to you, it's Thursday evening here at Belem, so it means that 4 days of negotiation has already been completed. In the earlier communication, I spoke about the first 2 days, what has happened in first 2 days, what were the implications, what we got or what we didn't get. Now I am going to share with you basically what has happened on third and fourth day and what is going to happen in future. See, if you look at any COP procedure, any COP meeting, there are two parallel lines always being running with each other. One is the formal COP negotiation, where around about 200 countries within closed doors talk with each other, try to find out what is happening and try to kind of negotiate on issues of various kind. So that's a formal negotiation, and after all this negotiation, maybe in the end of the second week, we come up with an unanimous agreement. Sometimes it may not be unanimous, it may not be an agreement at all, but something will happen after 2 weeks. So that's a formal UN process, what you expect to get after 2 days. But there is always a parallel line where several countries outside the COP process, they talk with each other, just as I'm talking with you, talk with each other and try to kind of organize something beyond COP process, maybe on emission cut, maybe on health, maybe on something else. You may say that is that important? I will argue that is important. Why it is important? I give you one example. In 2015, at COP 21, in Brazil, in Paris, France, we saw that India and French government, they kind of came up with an idea of International Solar Alliance. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji and the French President Mitterrand, they spoke with each other and came up with that idea of International Solar Alliance. Subsequently, several countries got hitched to it, and now it's quite a formidable institution. What is important that whatever the tenets in that of International Solar Alliance now has been taken up formally by the COP process. And if you look at the COP 28 decision, COP 29 decision, you will find that the solar issue is reflected time and again in that process. And from where it has come from that initiative in 2015 in COP21. So quite clearly, a process which started beyond the COP process has now been kind of accepted and embraced the COP process. So, but quite clearly, these are important. Now, in that context, let me tell you 2 or 3 things that happened in the last 2 days, today and the day before, that is on Wednesday. First is, there is now a UN, I would say, supported campaign of countering the disinformation against climate change. That's the way they're saying. They're saying that it needs awareness and initiative to counter disinformation because scientists, people, journalists are being countered for speaking against climate change. Now, while this is a very general kind of thing, but there is something more to it. You find about 12 countries are part of it, most of them European countries. And interestingly, if I ask you that who is the greatest or the biggest climate disinformant according to you, maybe most of you will come up with the name of American President Donald Trump, who unabashedly is a climate skeptic. He's a climate skeptic, he himself says and everybody says, so nothing new about it. But what is interesting, this is the campaign which is targeting disinformation without naming him. So that may be a strategy that is being built up, and I really am keen to look at it in the long run, and maybe in the long run that will become a process of a part of COP, because you know that US President has already announced his decision to come out of the Paris Agreement, to come out of the UN process in the long run. So that is one particular thing which is important. Another thing which is important is today, under the Brazilian kind of government's initiative, the Belem climate health a kind of a structure being built up. What is the idea? The money being pumped in to talk about or to work on the issue of climate change on health. Now, climate change on health is a major issue. If you look at the latest Lancet report, which clearly shows how big it is, in a country like India in 2023, 17 million people died of air pollution. The heat is affecting entire South Asia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, you name it, and they have it. And there are infectious diseases. And already, why I find it interesting, apart from this announcement of Belem Climate Health Initiative, already $300 million has been committed by the big philanthropics, Rockefellers and others, and like Get Foundation and everybody. So quite clearly it is a long run process, and WHO is also in the back of side of it. So I really would like to see it at the long run, and I think that is something which again can be part of the COP process in the future years. But the third part is something of concern. Today a report has come up which is called the Global Carbon Budget. This is coming up every year for the last 20 years. Now this is saying, today's report is saying that despite all these talks and all these efforts and all these agreements, at Paris we know the legal agreement was reached. In the last 10 years, beyond Paris, emission actually increased by 10%. In fact, emission projected in 2025 has been the biggest ever, about 38 billion ton of emission, greenhouse gas emission. And it is also found United States as among the major emitters is rising most sharply, 1.9%. India is rising 1.4%, but India's rate of increase has gone down due to the solar dominance. So all in all, this is something of concern, and it is also a concern that oil and gas is producing more emission in a way than coal. So all this finger pointing towards the countries with coal like India and China and likewise is important to cut down on coal, but it's equally important to cut down on oil and gas. So that's a very interesting report, and I think in the negotiation in the next week, these all issues will be picked up and will be deliberated upon. We look very closely at how it is happening. We are talking to the people who are part of the negotiation. We are hearing to this corridor talks, what's going around you. All in all, we are putting our own experience of knowing what's happening, what happens out there. So all in all, this is the situation in COP 30, in the end of fourth day. Tomorrow is going to be the formal end of the first week, though on Saturday a lot of things happen. But on next Monday, the hardcore negotiation is going to start. So we will look closely and try to share with you what's happening on ground. From the Plurals, Jayanta Basu, and with me my friend, journalist Vishendu Bhattacharya in camera. Thank you.